Hi folks, and welcome back to another Travels of Red Rover. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Corinne.
And where are we today?
Today we are in Bannack State Park in Montana. And this is an old ghost town.
And it was originally here because of the gold mining. It's a very well preserved little town, and I think we're going to have a great time.
Yeah, we're going to do something a little different today, some travel photography. We're mostly working handheld today, and it's already getting around 8:30 in the morning, so things are bright. It's late May and the sun is well up in the sky. So this will be more travel photography. We'll be dealing with some heavy shadows and bright highlights. So that'll be our challenge.
And building interiors. This is one of the few ghost towns that they actually let you go in some of the buildings. So apparently some of the interiors are very, very interesting, and we'll be photographing those as well.
So we hope to give you some tips on your own travel photography. So follow along with us.
Bannack was a thriving town right up until the 1970s, and the buildings are extremely well preserved. The state park has actually done an excellent job, both interior and exterior, showing what the various types of wallpaper, the plastering, and various construction methods are in the building. Like so many towns in the West, finding gold in them there hills created this interesting little town. However, Bannack's fame didn't come from gold. It comes from the hangings that took place in the 1800s. On a single day, 5 men were hanged, a road gang, including the sheriff and the deputy sheriff. It's a great story, but to get the full account, you're just going to need to go to Bannack. So let's talk a minute about setting up your camera. One of the things I like to do is to set my ISO up to around 400 while I'm sitting, I'm shooting handheld, especially when I'm shooting outside handheld. The other thing to do is have a nice polarizer. I like to use a very soft polarizer that gives me a little bit more definition in clouds and things of that sort if they're available. But if they're not, if there's no clouds in the sky, I tend to leave the polarizer off. The second thing I like to remember to do is to set my white balance on automatic. I know normally we don't do that in landscape photography. We set the white balance based on the sky that we have. But in travel photography, because you're going to be inside, outside, and generally you're going to be out on, lovely days, it's just easier to let the camera figure out the white balance. It just makes life a lot easier. Now, the second thing that I tend to do, or the third thing I tend to do, is that keep my camera on aperture priority. That way I really only have to worry about changing the f-stop. And of course, the more I want things sharp in the distance, the smaller the number, or I'm sorry, the bigger the number, the smaller the aperture. The more you want to make the background a little less visible, make it a little less in focus, then of course you take it to the smaller number and the bigger the aperture. So those are some simple tips to help make the camera a little easier to use. When you go inside these buildings, I generally tend to make my ISO a little bit higher. It depends on the number of windows and how bright the inside is, but often in these old wood buildings, you need to move your ISO up to around somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000. And that'll just give you a much better, more in focus shot when you're trying to shoot the interiors. As always, try to use the ambient light that's coming in through the windows to enhance those shots. So here's a few tips. Those are a few tips to get you started, and we'll provide some more as we go along the way today.
When you're out doing some travel photography, probably what you'll notice is one area will be quite well lit, like the buildings behind me. On the other side of the street, if I turn, you'll notice these buildings are much more shaded. So when you're taking pictures, try and make use of that light. Use the better lit areas to do some of the details of the construction, and then for the shaded ones, go on to the interior and do some of the work on the interior side. If you happen to be visiting a ghost town, do try and look around at the neighboring area to see a higher elevation spot where you can get up and get a good picture of the town site with all the buildings in view. It makes a great opportunity to put context to your other photos of individual buildings. When you're out doing your photography in a site like this, ghost town, one of the things to watch for is some unique close-up features. Here I've found this interesting fence, very detailed, and so I've done some close-ups of this with a very shallow depth of field, getting just 1 or 2 or 3 of the fence posts in focus and letting the other ones in the distance go out of focus. In some of the older buildings, one of the fun things to look for are the smaller details, such as hinges and doorknobs. Here, this door hanging at the back of a house has quite an interesting doorknob with lots of features around the outside of it.
So a lot of the time when I'm photographing for travel photography, specifically for myself, I tend to take a very artistic look at most of the buildings. I'm usually not trying to capture the building itself, but something that reminds me of the building, something that's unique or interesting of the building. Occasionally, though, it becomes important as well to capture some of the features, the historical features of a building, and just capture that in real time and for maintaining for posterity. One of the good examples is the linoleum on the floor in this particular home. This particular home was home to somebody that was quite wealthy, and they were able to afford some artistic and architectural fringes that maybe some of the other buildings don't have. So the floor is one, and then there's this beautiful wallpaper. It's hard to sort of see on the film, but it's a gorgeous wallpaper. And then do they not just finish with the wallpaper, but along the top they have the finishing wallpaper that kind of gives it an interesting, this would have been in its day an absolutely beautiful room. And it's often good to capture those particular architectural pieces while you're traveling through these historic buildings. So the thing that put this town on the map was actually not the gold mine, but the fact that there was 5 hangings in one day, including the sheriff, we're told. So it's one of the fun little facts about Bannack. Now, when you're out traveling with your family, one of the things you want to do is to make sure you have a little fun along the way. And I've got Corinne talked into here to posing as the being hung on the gallows. You know, you can imagine getting your kids up here, they'd have a ball. So that was a great day walking through this beautiful, well-preserved town. How did you enjoy it, Corinne?
Well, there was lots to look at, many buildings. Most of them were not furnished, but there were a couple that had furnishings, such as the schoolhouse, which we're in now, the Masonic Lodge upstairs, and a little bit of the hotel had some furnishings.
Yes, the hotel was especially beautiful with its sweeping staircase. It was just an absolutely gorgeous building and very well preserved.
The buildings are in great shape, and it's also worth a trip up the hill to the cemetery.
Yeah, Corinne and I managed to pick a kind of a wet, muddy day to do it. It was terribly rainy yesterday. So a bit of a muddy hike, but otherwise absolutely worth the trip to the top.
So we hope you've enjoyed this video on travel photography, and if you did, please give us a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. And as always, you can really help us out by subscribing. We're starting to get a little bit of momentum, and we'd like to maintain that, and with your help we can.
We appreciate everyone who has subscribed so far. And if you'd like to know when new videos are posted, hit that notification bell down below.
And as always, we'll number the photographs, so please don't hesitate to tell us in the comments below which photographs you liked, maybe which ones you didn't, and if you've been here before, what was your experience? And until next time, bye for now.
Bye for now.
And to end the video today, here are a few shots that just didn't fit in, and we thought you might enjoy.